Salutations, friends, and welcome back to another video on the series of connections, dynamics, and timeline. Thank you for being here, and I'm excited to see the warm reception of the previous video, peer victimization within fraternities and sororities. I thought that was an amazing thesis that gives us an inside look based on the surveys that they did of what happens within the Greek system, which can kind of give us some insight of what is going on when we see these 911 calls and these texts between the roommates. And more information, I'm sure, is going to come out of that and also help us within this series. I do find it interesting, real quick, that not the first press conference, but the second one, where Chief Fry emphasized that the 911 call originated in the home, which I have pointed out before in my videos and back. Why would you have to emphasize that? Naturally, you would think a 911 phone call will come in the home, but then we see with the 911 call how it sounds as though they're outside, because they said we have to go back in and check on Xana. They didn't want to, but they had to follow what the 911 call operator was asking of them. So my thought is they didn't want to be inside there because it was really like that. But they're not going to say that to the 911 operator. It was definitely rehearsed, is my opinion. And they did not want to go back in there because they did not want to deal with the smell or the sight. So, but we shall see as things progress. So with this video, we'll definitely hit on status quo, Xana with the shoes over the wire, and thank you to the listener of this channel who guided me to that and gave me that information and sent it to me. I did go to her sister's Insta and was able to see that as well. So we'll read that, and just to also expand on what we talked about in that video, that two different things can be true at the same time. I'm sure we all have heard that expression, hidden in plain sight. Using something that is known, like the status quo of what goes on within that neighborhood, of the King Road neighborhood, with their tradition of those shoes on the wire, but someone can also use that as a shield. People use the status quo as a shield as well. So we'll keep that in mind. And thank you all for your comments on your own personal experience within your neighborhoods. We'll get into more with the Greek system, Alpha Phi, and Pi Phi. We will read two articles that give us information on the status of their membership. One is from a local news outlet that was published shortly after, and the other is Daily Mail, which you always have to take with a grain of salt, but they do interview a Pi Phi member who talks about specifically Maddie, and this member lives really close to 1122. They live on, I want to say, Walenta Drive, which is that home that's kind of, if you look when they take their pictures, it's kind of up on the hill, and there's that road, Walenta Drive, which is parallel to Taylor Ave. We'll go through one of Kaylee's friends. Her name is Charlotte, and she has connections with friends who end up being in the same sorority as Kaylee is. I find it interesting that Kaylee's friends with Charlotte, but never cross paths with these other future sorority sisters. So we have several things we'll be covering today. But first, we'll read Xana's short essay, which it took me a few times to read because it's very, very well written. It's very insightful, and it's good. It's choking. It's like tears because of the ending, and that it's written on October 18th of 2022 and her plans of when she graduates. Now, at the time of this happening, she was a junior. So it took me a few times to read this without getting choked up because you will see Xana, a part of her. So here, October 18th, 2022. A short essay about an object of value to Xana. Growing up, I was a rambunctious kid, always running around with my friends from the neighborhood. In the summertime, we lay on the burning hot pavement to cool ourselves from the pool. We played kickball in the street without any shoes on, causing us to always have black feet. We sat on electrical boxes, not even knowing about the dangers of it. Personally, in my life, I have never cared much about material items because I was always running around not giving them any thought. I was grateful for what I had, so every time I was fortunate enough to receive something new, I cherished it. Every year, my dad took my sister and me shopping to get new clothing for school. And in my freshman year of high school, I got a brand new pair of black Converse. I wore them almost every single day of school, except for the occasional day I decided to dress up. So she was a bit of a tomboy. These shoes got me through every football game, ASB event, etc. I felt comfortable in them. I even brought them to college with me. I designated them as my frat shoe freshman year at the University of Idaho. It was very comforting knowing I had something with me from the past version of myself, knowing that I was growing, but also still had the same person inside me that received the shoes in the first place. Last year, I noticed they were starting to fall apart, including the rubber and the soles coming apart. I started wearing them to work and realized it is time to retire the shoes that have got me through some of the most interesting and stressful times of my life. I am so grateful for all of those years the Converse have got me through. The shoes and I have both been through a lot, even though the shoes may look like they have been through a bit more. Where I live off campus, everyone throws an old pair of shoes on the telephone wire by their house when they move out. This signifies the time we spend in these off-campus houses, but for me, it will signify the past 8 years of my life. I will be throwing those shoes on the telephone wire next year when I graduate. And I know it is going to be a liberating feeling. So sad. So hopefully someone threw those shoes up there for Xana. And it just shows within her writing how a well-rounded person she was. She was aware of her changing through the years of going through college, but also remaining the same person of her essence, of her inner child, in my opinion. And she has several other writings, which I will hold on until we go through her timeline. She's got a few more. I want to say 3 more writings, thankfully, that her sister Jasmine had shared. And Maya from last week, she also posted one of Xana's writings on her Vasco page. So we'll go to Charlotte. So usually I would do the student first, or Kaylee's friend, but I'm going to do Kaylee first just to show the amount of the relationship they had, and also the relationship she had with people within that group. So here is November 16th, 2015 is the first time I see Charlotte post on Kaylee's Insta, which is with Kiona, which we will see her throughout Charlotte's Insta. But here she writes cuties. And here they are together, June 10th, 2016. And she says, last day with Char. I'm going to assume this is towards the last day of school. And remember, Kaylee's birthday is on June 8th. Chonies, here you'll see him also on Kaylee's Insta. I want to say Maddie's as well. And here we see Alexandra, who we went through already. Here the two are together September 30th, 2016. And she says, I love this girl so much. And it looks like they're dressed up as kittens. On July 10th, Charlotte writes, I miss you, babe. Here is August 27th, 2017. And I don't know the name of the fair, but they do go to the fair a lot, which is fun. I do like a good fair once in a while. But here is Erica, Addie, Sarah Swider, and Maddie Morris. So we'll see more of Sarah Swider and Maddie Morris in Charlotte's posts. And Kaylee writes here, my sissies forever, at Sarah Swider. So I don't see much of Sarah on Kaylee's Insta, but we'll look into Sarah a little bit more. Here Kaylee's with Tori Long, September 8th, 2018. And Charlotte writes, so cute. Here we see Deja, Jaden Zabrowski, and Kelsey Spellman. And we'll see these three on Charlotte's. So here is Charlotte Henning. Hennig. She's followed by Kaylee and Maddie. She started her Insta on September 2012. So now we're going into Charlotte back in 2013. Just to get a little context, and we'll see the connections coming up. So here Charlotte is with her sister in July. This is, okay, let me go back. This is her first post, which is December of 2013. And she joined September of 2012. And then her first tag is July 7th of 2013 of Tafro. And here is Charlotte. And it looks like they're in a limo with wine glasses, drinking water out of wine glasses. So now we're in 2014. And here she writes, we must take adventures in order to know where we truly belong. And she's in Arizona with her horse, or with a horse. JC Brokoff, which we will see in Kaylee's posts. They're reunited. Here we are, September 6th, 2014. And Andrew McGinnis. We will be seeing his name in Kaylee's posts. Here is October 18th, 2014, and they went to Claire's, which, if you remember with the Chronicles of Olivia interview, Olivia talks about how they got in trouble. Kaylee really didn't really flinch, didn't really mind the yelling or the chastising from her dad, Steve, but once he mentioned he was not taking her to Claire's, she got on her knees and started crying. I think we read that also on Olivia's Facebook post. Here we see Nevaeh for the first time before Kaylee starts to like or post on Charlotte's Insta. Here is November 1st, 2014, and Josh Schreiger is tagged, who is the younger brother, whose older brother is Jake Schreiger, who was dating Maddie Mogan at the time. Now we're in 2015. And here we see Katie Kinson. Now, Katie Kinson, she says here, to be honest, you're absolutely gorgeous and I haven't seen you forever and I miss playing basketball with you. So Katie Kinson is a member of Alpha Phi, and she graduates the same year as Kaylee does. And here is a connection that Kaylee has to her sorority without meeting Katie. And we'll see two other members as well who belong to the same high school that Kaylee does not meet beforehand, but you will see that 3 members will be Alpha Phi members, and Kaylee and Maddie are not both members. So here is Katie Kinson, Vikings, as well as Natalie Fitzgerald. And here are the 2 of them playing tennis. So this photo is November 10th of 2017 of where I find in Katie's Vasco with Natalie for the first time. And then here they are together September 23rd, 2019. They're ready to graduate high school and then to the University of Idaho. So these 2 end up being Alpha Phi members, but not Kaylee and Maddie. Someone had mentioned in my comments about there's a quota of some sorts, which any business or organization will use that as an excuse. If they wanted them together, they would make it happen. But they didn't. So these 2, as well as Charlotte, because she really doesn't have any posts about her specific high school. She does other sports. I want to say like travel, or club soccer, travel soccer. So the 3 of them, and Riley Moreland, which we will see, so 4 of them, they all go to CDA, Coeur d'Alene High School. And Lake City is 6 minutes away from Coeur d'Alene High School, which is where Kaylee and Maddie went to high school. So this is how close they are to each other. And if you remember, I had mentioned before, there will be some interconnectedness because of sports and activities in the fair. So they're all relatively close. I didn't realize how close these high schools were. And then from Post Falls, which is where Xana went to high school, it is 17 minutes away. So further away. Which means maybe Xana didn't really connect too much with this high school CDA because of the distance, but we will see people who are connected to Xana who are also connected to CDA students. So here, as we went through Sarah Swider, this is her first post, And here she has one of her first posts. Here she has Jack DeCoeur tagged. He also played tennis. So, and here you have a comment from his brother saying, I'm Jack's bro, and this is Joe DeCoeur. And his main focus, which I have seen, is baseball. So here is a connection, an early connection. And we'll see as we go within Charlotte's Insta, we will see one of Jack's sister, Katie, be in photos with both Charlotte and Kaylee. So here's Katie Kinson, and Kaylee, Maddie, and Xana both follow Katie, which I'm going to assume Xana definitely is going to see more of her at the university, and it is private. And here's Natalie Fitzgerald, who is also friends with all three of them. And she joined in 2012, while Katie joined in 2013. Katie has 116 posts, while Natalie has 82. And here is Sarah Swider. Even though we don't see much of Sarah Swider in Kaylee's post, except for that one, we will go through her Insta at one point because we will see more of the other sorority members. But she is followed by Kaylee and Maddie, and she joined in 2013. So here we see, and this is Alpha Phi's Insta of Katie and Natalie, both going to the same high school, and both are in the same sorority. And Riley Moreland, you'll see further how she is also a student of CDA. So we see Riley Moreland, which is right here, and Kaylee and Maddie do have more of a relationship with her in the summer year of going into college, 2019. So we'll see all three of them more together before going to the university, but we will not see Kaylee have any interaction with Katie or Natalie before she goes to college. We see it after she goes into the university. So here's the other instance we talked about earlier, how friends from high school are in the same sorority, but Kaylee and Maddie got separated. And here just to show a picture of the PC is what they call it. And if you can see, let's see here. Here's Riley and here's Natalie. And then there's Katie. These three girls, Natalie, Riley, and Katie, all graduated together and were all able to be in the same sorority together. So I just wanted to bring this up while we're here. And Kaylee writes, Alpha Phi gave me the opportunity to serve on the 2020 executive board with the best people. So here she is. She started college 2019, so this is her sophomore year. It looks like December 11th of 2019. So this is the following year. This will be her sophomore year. Freshman would be 2019 to 2020, then 2020 to 2021. And this is December going into 2021, which will be her sophomore year. Here she's on the executive board. So what is the executive board? We'll get into that We'll just show you the names here. So Kaylin May, that is her big, which I believe, if I remember correctly, she ends up being high honors when she graduates. I want to say she's like the valedictorian of the school, if I recall correctly. Here's Kaylee, and then there's Katie Kinson on the executive board with Kaylee. And here's another picture of them. So what does that mean? Is that too big? The executive board of Alpha Phi is the governing body that makes decisions and policies for the sorority. Elected women lead the sorority's activities and operations. What does the executive board do? Make decisions and policies for the sorority. Oversees the sorority's activities and operations and guides the sorority's leadership. Who serves on the executive board? Women who have demonstrated leadership within the sorority and professionally. What is the role of an executive board member? Gives the most time to their position, is usually present during meetings, is often held responsible for mistakes made by those in positions under them. So she kind of rose through the ranks, and now she's on the executive board. I looked through the Alpha Phi website. They even have different rankings within the executive board, and this is where they kind of break it down. They don't tell you, but they show you of the different levels and what their responsibilities are, which means you know more information than the other members within your home. I have seen videos and I have read other people who are in these types of positions and tell you how stressful it is because of if they're in charge of the activities like the balls or the mixers, the amount of money that these students have access to is a lot of money, which people of this age having that type of responsibility is a lot of pressure. And if you make mistakes, that is going to be a huge mistake. And with Kaylee, she ends up having quote unquote twins, meaning she has two littles that she's responsible for. So that part right there is often held responsible for mistakes made by those in positions under them. So that opens up a whole can of worms. And I do recall Steve saying in the Chronicles of Olivia how much time that Kaylee was being spent in that sorority, which makes sense if she is on the executive board. They have meetings every week that are required, and I'm sure there's other meetings as well, especially if you are on the executive board. And then here with Maddie, she ends up being the director of PR and marketing December 9th, 2019, in her sophomore year as well. So she also has privy information more than other members within her home. And this is Riley. She spoke at the vigil, the celebration of life for Kaylee, as well as Jordan, which I haven't looked much into Jordan. I really don't see Jordan on Kaylee's Insta, so I really don't know much information on this at this point. And here is Katie speaking at that 2020 special with Ava Wood, who I mentioned a student has been around a lot of tragic events, like in last week's video with Paige and that male with the glasses on. Ava also has been through a lot of tragedies in a short period of time. One is one of her roommates in the sorority dies tragically, and then shortly after, or not too far after, then these 4 happened. And she had a personal relationship, I want to say, with all of them, with Maddie, but mostly with Kaylee and Xana. Here I find it interesting that they write that she's a friend of Kaylee and Xana, but not Maddie. Just could be the editing. They didn't put it on there for whatever reason. They didn't know, but I just find that interesting. Why not all 3? So I'm going to go to now those 2 articles that I mentioned earlier before we go back to Sarah and Charlotte. Hold on one second. All right, so here I just wanted to quickly show this was November 20th, 2022. And here, this is Chief Fry saying that they were home at approximately 1 a.m. and did not wake up until that morning. On the morning of November 13th at 11:58 a.m., 911 was placed to the Whitcomb Dispatch Center reporting an unconscious person. The call originated from inside the residence and was made from the phone of one of the surviving roommates. Okay, I don't know why you have to put that in, but as we see here with the 911 call, she's not waking up. All right, so I passed it. So the dispatcher asked, okay, need to know what's going on right now. If someone is passed out, can you find that out? Yeah, I'll come. Come on. We got to go check. But we have to. Is she passed out? She's passed out. What's wrong? She's not waking up. So to me, that sounds like they're outside. It'll be nice to know the timestamps of these to get more of a clarification of what the conversation is. So here are the 2 articles. This one is November 14th, 2022 at 6:46. And that's 6:51 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And this is the local news that matters. And I'm trying to see if... Well, this is North Carolina. I thought this was the actual, like, within Moscow, Idaho. But this says here, Moscow, Idaho. 3 of the 4 slain Idaho college students were in sororities. 2 were sorority sisters, officials say. So, 2 were sorority sisters, officials say. 3 out of the 4. So, that's definitely Ethan. So that means they're saying that Kaylee is not in a sorority at the time of this massacre. So as we read through it, I had a hard time understanding. It took me a few times. So we'll read this quickly. The mayor of the small town where 4 University of Idaho students were found dead on Sunday said the senseless event is a reminder that acts of violence can occur anywhere. The Moscow Police Department has released few details about the deaths, which has been labeled homicides. Officers discovered the bodies of the 4 University of Idaho students at a home near campus when they were responding to a report of an unconscious person. The victims were identified as Ethan Chapin, a 20-year-old from Conway, Washington, Madison Mogan, a 21-year-old from Coeur d'Alene, Xana Kernodle, 20, from Avondale, Arizona, and Kaylee Goncalves from Rathdrum, Idaho. Goncalves was a senior majoring in general studies in the College of Letters, Arts, and Social Sciences. She was a member of the Alpha Phi sorority, the university announced. So she was, not the two were. Mogan, a senior, and Kernodle, a junior, were majoring in marketing in the College of Business and Economics. They were members of the Pi Phi sorority, according to the university. I'm going to read you another article that says different. The college said Chapin, a freshman from Mount Vernon, Washington, was a member of Sigma Chi fraternity majoring in recreation, sport, and tourism management in the College of Education, Health, and Human Services. In a press release on Monday, Moscow Mayor Art Begi said though only limited information could be shared without jeopardizing the police investigation, his hearts and thoughts were with the victims and their families, as well as the entire community. This tragedy serves as a sobering reminder that senseless acts of violence can occur anywhere, at any time, and we are not immune from such events here in our community. Today we grieve for those who were lost and those they leave behind. Please do not believe there is an active threat to the community, the University of Idaho wrote in a press release. The university brought in additional security staffers to help with the school's Safety Walks program, which allows students and employees to sign up to have a security guard accompany them on walks across campus. Authorities have released few details about the investigation or what caused the deaths. Details are limited in this investigation. Currently, there's no one in custody. And the police believe there is no ongoing community risk based on information gathered during the preliminary investigation. And there was that vandal alert, and they told a shelter in place, which doesn't really make much sense because they were apparently, it happened within the home. So do a shelter in place when the crimes occurred in the homes, which I find is odd. Maybe they're just going through the motions. Okay, so this is November 14th. And they're saying that Xana and Maddie were members of a sorority. Kaylee was not. And then Ethan was part of Sigma Chi. So here is an article by Daily Mail. And sorority sister of brutally murdered University of Idaho victims say their final hours were eerily normal and spent with friends before they fought for their lives in a targeted stabbing attack in their own home. And this was November 30th, 2022. And here is Xana and Madison. And then here's the four. The sorority sister of two of the victims of the quadruple University of Idaho murder says their final hours appeared to be eerily normal and spent with friends. Kaylee, 21, her best friend Madison Mogan, also 21, and young couple Xana Kernodle and Ethan Chapin, both 20, all pictured to the right, were all found stabbed to death in their off-campus rental house in Moscow, Idaho on the morning of November 13th. And here is Xana and Maddie at Pi Phi. Madison Moye, 21, who had been part of the Idaho chapter of Pi Phi, along with Maddie and Kernodle, said the last time she saw Mogan, who police said spent the night out with Goncalves, was at a popular university venue, Idaho's Corner Club. Moya said to Fox News that she had been spotted just laughing with all her friends and added that it was just a normal night in Moscow. And then here she is. And she has two older brothers who also went to the University of Idaho, who are also in fraternities. She had an older brother that had graduated, and Matt. When we hear those four males on the underage drinking body cam, they said they were at Matt's. And I had mentioned that house that is behind 1122 near Willenta Drive. That's where they were. That's Matt's house. That's his sister, Madison. And it looks like on their Instas, the older one, he has his private Ty. He goes by Ty. His is now private. I do have some of his photos, not very many, but he does say how their family has been targeted by a lot of cyber sleuths and just other people because of they're trying to do their own investigation. So they've definitely felt some heat, which is why I always say, please do not contact any of these people, even if whatever your thought process is, still, it's no bueno. So here she says, Moscow is a safe place. Nothing like this ever happens. I didn't think anything of it. Moya Pictures said Mogan was at the club for the majority of the night. According to police, Mogan and Goncalves left the bar around 1:30 and went to a nearby food truck before returning to their King Road home at 1:56 a.m. on Sunday. Moya said she had been to the home ever so often before it turned into a crime scene for events or when the girls would hang out, and said their deaths had been really tough. The Vandal community is really close, and it's kind of just put a darkness over it, she said. And notice how she puts the Vandal community. Remember how in that thesis, how they have the group connectedness with the university connectedness. How they really push that Vandal. And here's a picture of their Big Little. I want to say I have seen this within their Insta posts, but I'll have to double check. And this is Pi-Fi. I want to say this is Montana is her name. Montana Jean. Moye also told Fox News Mogan and Kernodle had dropped out of the sorority last semester. So this is 2022, November. So last semester, they both dropped out. And now, Maddie's already living at 1122. So Xana had dropped out of her sorority as well as Madison, and she moves into that Pi-Phi home. We don't know exactly when Kaylee dropped out of Alpha Phi, but she also moves into that home. And therefore, she had seen them less frequently in recent months. The University of Idaho's Pi-Phi chapter posted a photo of the girls on Instagram last week with a caption that called Mogan and Kernodle bright young women who had incredible futures ahead of them. Maddie was the sweetest soul who was passionate about every aspect of her life. She shared her brilliance with those around her, the post stated. Xana was a magnet for positive energy and always radiated that energy back into the world. We know others in our community are also hurting. We grieve with them and share the weight of their sorrow. So, very bright lights. Maybe their lights were too bright for some. Moya lives in a home behind the crime scene, like I mentioned, that home that's up on that hill where you see the pictures. She said she did not go to the home on the morning of November 13th, when police said officers arrived to find multiple people already inside. So I find it interesting that she's doing this interview. And nope, I was not at that home. When asked about the possibility that the killer might have passed through her yard, she responded, "It's definitely something that's crossed my mind, and that's really terrifying." She said she and many of her classmates typically walked to campus for class, and that she has often used a shortcut that passes through the parking lot behind the victim's home. As students returned to campus and classes on Monday, Moye said she is changing her habits and plans to carry pepper spray. So here, they ask her if they had a thought that the killer could have went through her home, like went through her property. And she's like, yeah, that's terrifying. That definitely is a possibility. But you see in the beginning, or if you didn't see, I'll show those in the future when we get into the crime scene, how initially they put the tape not even to the parking lot until one of the investigators from Fox News, who is a retired investigator, said something to them and saying, you need to go all the way back to the parking lot where those cars are. So they had to expand their investigation. It was as if they didn't want to go back there. They're limiting their investigation because I think that they're just really trying to protect the Greek system. That's their first duty. Because they're not telling names, they're not doing the 911 calls, they're saving the integrity of their investigation, while the integrity of their investigation is protecting the Greek system. That's my opinion. And then here is Ethan and Xana at 1122. The perimeter of the home remains lined by crime scene tape more than 2 weeks after the victims were found, and their murder remains at large. Officials have called the attack targeted, but have not said who was the intended victim. Police said on Sunday they have received more than 488 digital media submissions via the FBI portal. Idaho State Police Colonel Kendrick Willis said investigators have collected 103 pieces of evidence from the crime scene, except for the garbage that has still been there, and have taken an estimated 4,000 photos thus far. He added that investigators have processed over 1,000 tips and conducted 150 interviews. I would be interested to see who are the 150 interviews, because it sounds like the families weren't interviewed. And I've said this so many times, like, how do you not really interview the families? They would know their behaviors. So here, despite the extensive and lengthy investigation now spanning 16 days, families of the victims have accused police of withholding details in an effort to catch the killer. They say that they are not releasing a profile of the suspect because it could lead to more fear and suspicion in the college town. Because it could lead to more fear and suspicion in the college town, which is already on edge following the gruesome murders, with some students refusing to return to classes. It will potentially put more fear, more suspicion on a wide variety of people, versus if we use that to really refine where we're at in our investigation. I think that will be more pertinent, and so if we just provide information to the public, I just don't think that's going to be a wise choice. So far we have seen how their choices and their behaviors have not been so wise. Remember, I was saying how these types like to use the proper terms or the right terms. They have these words they like to use, but they're not using them properly. And here's the foreign that's been used a lot. So Mogan and Goncalves had spent much of their night before her death at the Corner Club. At approximately 1:30, the pair were caught on camera purchasing a portion of carbonara pasta from Grub Wandering Kitchen, I guess the Grubhub, a food truck that offers late night eats on weekends, parked up close to the Moscow branch of insurers State Farm, an outdoor store, Hyperspud Sports. Madison and Kaylee were last glimpsed walking away towards what police have called a private party driver, Eric Grauer, which now we know who it is, which many people said it was way back then, but now we have it officially for their final ride home. So here, according to the police, the pair arrived home at 1:45 at the same time as Ethan and Xana, and 45 minutes after their other roommates, Dylan and Bethany. So here, this is different than what's in the PCA. So they're saying that Kaylee and Maddie arrived at 1:45 at the same time as Ethan and Xana, which we now find out that it was 1:56. And then 45 minutes after their other roommates, Dylan and Bethany, we're told in the PCA that they all kind of came home around the same time, who were both miraculously survived the attack. And what's going on with my computer? I'm going to pause this here. Okay. Once I hit pause, then it stopped. Less than 2 hours later, Maddie, Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan were dead, killed as they slept by a knife-wielding villain. Autopsy reports showed that they had died from stab wounds to the chest, with police saying the murder weapon was a large military-style knife, which still hasn't been found. Officials have insisted over the past month that the quadruple stabbings was a targeted attack, with ISP Aaron Snell telling Daily Mail an exclusive interview that all four of the victims could have been the intended targets. So they're interviewing LE to get this information, and just seeing how different this information is from the PCA. They're not getting their stories straight. He confirmed investigators have gathered enough evidence to suggest the killings were targeted, but admitted they are still no closer to identifying the murderer. We still believe it was a targeted attack based on the evidence at the scene and how everything developed, what we know. We believe that's accurate. Still, Snell refused to say which of the victims police believe to be the target, describing it as a delicate question. The police spokesperson said, "That's part of the ongoing investigation. That's a real delicate question. And when we're able to say that, or if we're able to say that, we'll definitely do that." That's part of the ongoing investigation. That's a real delicate question. And when we're able to say that, or if we're able to say that, we'll definitely do that. I don't mean to laugh, but goodness. It's very similar to the whole stalking, right? potentially, if there was a stalker, that would be somebody of extreme interest. You can't lay all your cards out at once. We're trying to find the various potential participants. Not just one, participants. He then admitted that there is a threat to the community, despite Moscow police originally assuring the public there was no threat to the close-knit college town. Is there somebody out there? Yes. Our goal is to find that person and bring them to justice. He said police have now mostly finished investigating the crime scene and revealed that plans to release the scene are underway, but noted that it won't be released until cops are sure there is nothing left to retrieve. Not the trash. The trash is still there. In the meantime, most of the police work is now being done behind the scenes with crime lab testing and reports. Investigations are very difficult. Potentially could be quite a while. But if we have some leads that lead us to potential suspects and quickly, we don't try and estimate or speculate on the length of the investigation. Obviously, our goal would have to solve this last week, so we don't have a timeline. We are receiving a lot of quality tips and have done over 150 interviews, so all the information that has been received is building that whole picture. Since we don't have a suspect at this time and we don't have a weapon, it's difficult to find out what happened. I find that hard to believe when it's a close, tight-knit community. So what we have to do is try and build this picture of what occurred on that night, the relationships the four of them had. Okay, now we're making sense. Was there anything suspicious in those? Okay, making sense. And they are any tidbits of information we can draw from that. Okay, that's the only thing he has said that makes sense. And then they quickly stopped talking because I think they found out who they were. Did anything occur in the evening of that night? Was there anything out of the ordinary that occurred to them and the movements of the residents themselves? But despite the difficulties, Snell said he is confident police will eventually unravel the mystery of what happened and bring the killer to justice. So he goes from saying participants to the killer. We have not identified anybody who was involved in this so far, for sure. Do not want to say we think they came through whatever door and did this, because once we do that, we start going down a rabbit hole, and then all these ancillary facts that might point to something else. Whoa. We have not identified anybody who was involved in this so far. Okay. We have not identified anybody who was involved in this. So we for sure do not want to say we think they came through whatever door and did this, because once we do that, we start going down a rabbit hole. And then all these ancillary facts that might point to something else. Then maybe we would miss those. Whoa. So they're not going to investigate. He just basically said that. We're not going to. We don't want to go down the rabbit hole. We're going to stay focused. And I just want to look something up real quick. So when you say ancillary, it means providing necessary support to the primary activities or operation of an organization, institution, industry, or system. So he pretty much says right there, we start going down a rabbit hole, and then all these ancillary facts that might point to something else, then maybe we would miss those. So he's saying investigators truly are doing a phenomenal job. All the debriefs and stuff we do upstairs, they really are talking about this entire picture, but not going down the rabbit hole and seeing all those ancillary facts that might point to something else. Goodness gracious. They are trying not to get pigeonholed into all these various theories and motives because we are not entirely sure what they are right now. Once they get that picture, I think we are going... What a contradiction. What a contradiction. And pretty much telling on themselves. And I get really annoyed when they say when you watch TV, you see these shows and this is how it is. And here they are trying to do that same exact thing with the IgG. They're basically doing the same. They're projecting right there. Ay, ay, ay. And this is on November 30th of 2022. So we learned that Xana and Maddie dropped out of their sorority per Madison Moyer the semester before. So they were not current members, unlike this other article we read. So the only true member was Ethan. It was his freshman year. And it's November. Was that a hazing incident gone wrong? Because as we learned with these peer victimization, when it comes to hazing, they downplay it and they don't know the line. And they're not rational. And he was having problems with his grades. So we know Kaylee and Maddie and Xana were no longer members. They dropped out per Madison Moyer, who is a member of Pi Phi, which I'm sure she was prepped to, I'm sure she was prepped to what to say and what not to say. Because as we know, Madison was a member of the PR and marketing. And that's why I'm not surprised that when there's an incident on campus or off campus home of a member who, after a hazing incident or any type of incident, when they call 911, they are prepped to say, our friend was drinking last night, got really drunk, and we just checked on them this morning and they're not waking up. They are prepped to say that. As we saw with Maddie, she is in PR and marketing. And we'll go into Madison and her whole story with her two brothers at a later date. So now we'll go back to, if it will let me, because it's been giving me problems. All right, let me pause it. Maybe that's what it is. Okay, I'm back. So yes, I think it's my screen recorder messes with, little stinker. Go through here. Here we go. Director of PR and Marketing. So now we're back with Sarah. And here is Charlotte. They're on a soccer team together. Addie Smart we'll see more of. And here is Riley Moreland with Sarah. We'll see a lot of this name is too, Renna. So here they are, CDA, Sarah Swider, and here's Katie, Natalie, JC Bruckoff, Haley Jane we'll see more of. Because Sarah doesn't really, or not Sarah, Riley we'll see here shortly. So here's Natalie and Katie with Sarah. Looks like prom. This is 2019. And here's Riley with them. Katie. And here Natalie posts with Sarah. And here Sarah says she went on a road trip to the SCO, which I see that in other people's Insta, or they call it the dirty SCO, which, yes, we literally. Elizabeth Scarlett, we'll see more of her with Xana. So here Sarah is at CDA with Charlotte, Natalie, and Katie. We don't see Xana interact so much with all these others, but Elizabeth does. So maybe we'll see more with that. So here she is with Katie and Natalie, and Kaylee likes it. So there's no pictures with Kaylee, even though her sisters, but that could just be because Kaylee had different obligations at the time, or it could be just timing. So we're back to Charlotte. It is 2015. Krista Brenner, we will see that we spoke about her with Kaylee calling her K-Hawks. Here we see Sarah posting. And Nevaeh. Nevaeh and Kaylee liking. And Nevaeh, Kaylee, and Maddie get really close in their later high school years. And it looks like Nevaeh may have went to the University of Idaho, but didn't stay there very long. Tori Long, who we will see a lot with Kaylee. Kaylee likes this post, and here's Nevaeh. Here we have both Kaylee and Maddie liking her post. This is October 15th, 2015. So she's an early friend. Charlotte. Here's Nevaeh, who took the picture with Tori, and both Kaylee and Maddie both like it. Kaylee likes this photo, and Kaylee and Maddie like this. And Kelsey Spellman, here we see her posting. I want to say for the first time. Here Kaylee likes this post. And both Kaylee and Maddie do. And Andrew McInnes, we'll see him on Kaylee's. I don't remember with Maddie. We're in 2016. Kaylee likes this post. And here Kaylee is with Charlotte as well as Nevaeh. Cody Benz, which we will go over. And here is Tori. And both Kaylee and Maddie like this post. So this seems to be more of a Kaylee friend than Maddie. I don't see any posts with Maddie on here, but I haven't seen Maddie's in a while, so you may see Charlotte on Maddie's. Here we see Andrew again. And here is Riley Walker, which both Kaylee and Maddie like. And Kaylee, Maddie, and Riley have a relationship for a period of time. Like it was just the three of them. And then after that, it looks like then it became Nevaeh. Kaylee and Maddie both like this post, as well as this one with Tori Long. They both like this post, and now we see Deja Wilson. Here they went to the G-Eazy concert. They both like this post. And Kaylee went to the same one. I attached this. This was April 7th, 2016 in Spokane. Oh, here we have Maddie. This is the first time we see Maddie post on Charlotte's page, and they both like it. And so does Kaylee. Kaylee likes this post. And here we have Tori Long. They both like this one. And here is Sarah Swider. Here we see playing soccer. JC Brokoff. Kaylee and Maddie both like this, as well as this with the Frenchie. Here we see Sarah Swider and Kaylee liking it. Tori Long. Here we have Kaylee on her page. September 26, 2016 is Kitty Cats. And this is the first time we see Kate Ducour on Charlotte's page, which is Jack Ducour's sister. And we saw Jack Ducour tagged on Sarah Swider's page in regards to tennis. Jack went to the same high school as Kaylee and Maddie, as well as Kate. So here, sports is possibly the connector of them, as well as being the high school being so close. Here, Kaylee likes this post, as well as this. Both like this post. Kaylee writes something, as well as Kelsey Spellman. Now we're in 2017. We see Kelsey Spellman and Deja both like the post. Kaylee writes, "I love you, Char." More of Kelsey Spellman. Both Kaylee and Maddie like this post. And here we have Sarah Swider. And here we see Kate and Charlotte with Kaylee. And this is June 6, 2017. Her birthday is June 8th. And she writes, "I love you both endlessly." Kaylee likes this post, and Kaylee and Maddie like this post. And we have Kate commenting. I'm not quite sure. We went over Kate before when she graduated. So she's around this. I don't remember. I'll remember for next time. Here we have Kaylee liking this, and we'll see more of Hannah Mae. It's Deja with both liking it. Both liking this post, and Marie Lambert, we'll see her on Kaylee's page. So now we're here in 2018, and here we see Anderson Shayla. So Shayla, if you recall in the last video, she went on spring break with Kaylee to Portland. and she is a few years older than them. They both like this post, and here is Xana. Here Maddie posts hottie. And here we see Kaylee with Charlotte. So this looks like a football game, so they're seeing each other. We saw how Kaylee's brother, Steve, he made a post with the football score, which I'm assuming he plays football. So this is how they interact with each other, since these high schools are so close. And then Jaden Sabrowski. Your boy Beef, we'll see him a lot on Kaylee's posts. Not quite sure about Maddie. And now we're here in 2019. Usually I stop here. Here's Sarah Swider. Here they both like her post, but I want to keep going just to show. No. All right, that's it. We'll stop here. And Charlotte goes to Boise State, as well as Sarah Swider. They both go. And here you see Natalie commenting on Sarah's post. Oh, that's what I was doing. So while we're here, so this was at the time, right here, it looked like Kaylee had stopped liking her post or interacting with Charlotte. Even though she went to high school with Katie Kinson, Natalie Fitzgerald, and Riley Moreland. But Kaylee stops interacting with her at this time. That's what it looked like. But then I looked at tag posts, and Sarah Swider, she does like Sarah Swider's post as well as Maddie. And Erin, who is Charlotte's best friend, Kaylee does like her post with Charlotte in it. But that's the last post that Kaylee likes out of Charlotte. And then for Maddie, she likes this post from February 27th of 2022 and October 31st, 2022. This is the last time that Maddie likes her post. And then Charlotte doesn't post from October 31st to 2022. Her next post isn't until August 13th, 2023. So there you have it. This is Charlotte, friends with Kaylee in the beginning, in her early years. Charlotte has close ties with, we'll go back, with Riley Moreland, who is in Alpha Phi with Kaylee. And she speaks at the Celebration of Life. And here she is with her and Katie Kinson, who is also in the sorority, as well as Natalie. So you have 3 females who went to high school together, CDA, all in the same sorority, Alpha Phi, with Kaylee. But Kaylee and Maddie are separated. They're in different sororities. Now, it could just be personalities. The homes decided, but I just find it very interesting that Kaylee and Maddie get separated and they wanted to be in the same home together. They were looking forward to it. And they were disappointed that they were not in the same home, but they pretty much separated best friends, known best friends. We're not able to see how close Katie, Riley, and Natalie were, because theirs are private. I do have their Vascos. They're in there together, but not as much as you would see Kaylee and Maddie were. We learned through Madison, who lived behind the home at 1122. She lived behind the home on Malanta Drive. Mentions in that article that has Daily Mail, which they interviewed her, as well as Willis, that both Xana and Maddie dropped out last semester, so she didn't see much of them. And she wasn't at the home the morning of when we learned that there were a lot of people there. We will learn more about Madison. She has 2 older brothers. One graduated shortly after she becomes a student. And then her brother Matt, who those 4 males who got stopped for the alleged intoxication at Taylor Avenue around 2:56 a.m. when we see that body cam footage, and they stopped them for underage drinking, and they say they were at Matt's house. We heard how Madison said she thinks about how the killer could have gone through her property and how the police tape had to be told to take it further all the way back in the parking lot behind 1122 King Road. We also learned about Xana and about the shoes on the wires, and how when you become a senior, you throw your shoes on there to kind of commemorate how you're moving on, and how she was going to use her black Converse to do that with when she graduates, and how it would signify the past 8 years of her life. Next year when I graduate. And I already know it is going to be a liberating feeling. So she had plans for her future. We saw that TikTok of her talking about working at Palouse Marketing. And I mentioned how even though, yes, those shoes on the wire signify that on the King Road neighborhood, but as we know, there are many things that are hidden in plain sight, and 2 things can be true at the same time. With the amount of shoes up there, I find it hard to believe that they all are in regards to that. I'm sure some of them are, but not all of them, especially now learning about the peer victimizations within fraternities and sororities. They're aware of what those shoes signify. And the timing of those shoes to be off after the murders. So next week, I will look into another one of their students. The more I go through with these, the more that I learn about these connections that these four had before they even went to the university. And it just shows, yes, it is a small, tight-knit community that goes back to even their high school. So with that being said, is high school drama, so to speak, being carried through to the university? And as we've learned through that thesis, that those who had any type of victimization in high school is going to carry over into their college years. And even if they had none in their high school, the first time they have it happen to them is in college, especially within the fraternity and sorority organizations. That's all I have for you right now. Next week, I'll have another video, and if I find another research paper to correlate with whatever I find for next week, I will definitely put that up beforehand, and then the connections, timelines, and dynamics, I will follow up afterwards. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time.